Hey, what's up there, metalheads? This is Vinny DiBianca from Vicious Circle out of New Jersey, and you're experiencing Poppitt's Corner.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Poppitt's Corner. Looking forward to doing this, going up all the way to Oregon, per se. But I'd like to bring on my good buddy, Mr. Eric Eisenhauer of the band Weresquatch, and a bunch of other killer bands, which we will get into. But Eric, how you doing today, sir? Thanks so much for giving me a couple minutes of your time, man.
I'm doing good, man. I'm stoked to be on the show. Honored to have be on here. You've had like a rad alumni of heavy hitters on here, and I'm stoked to be included. It's rad.
Yeah, absolutely. Another heavy hitter, right?
Yeah, I'm stoked to talk about music in general because I haven't really talked to anybody. So I'm like, and doing it this way, it's even radder. So yeah,
it's gonna be fun, man. It's definitely needed. I've been wanting to get you on the show for a while now, so just know that. Just been busy elsewhere, right? That's just life.
Yeah, totally.
So basically, you know how the show works. I'm going to go through your entire musical career, tell some stories, and just have some fun with you. So if you're ready, man, I'd love to get started.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So give me your first kind of recollections of just hearing music for the first time, and what were the bands that kind of invigorated your I guess passion to want to just be enthralled in music and play in general?
One of my favorite questions I ask myself all the time too. It was early 90s, MTV era kid, and then I think initially it was probably Green Day, like when basket case video, and like that Dookie whole record, that whole thing, and then like that Woodstock performance when they're getting mud thrown at them and stuff and everything, and like we're just seeing Billy Joel like just playing the shit out of that guitar and those crunchy chords and stuff. I was like, whoa. And then I'd probably somehow I found out about Metallica, and I was always stoked on Metallica since day one. I mean, since like as long as I can remember, like since I was like 8, 9, I always had like Ride the Lightning, Master, and Justice cassettes, and then CDs on me all the time through my whole life. It's just weird. I've always had that, but that was what it was. Hetfield and probably Billy Joel Armstrong.
Interesting. So they did play the same Woodstock, if I'm not mistaken, in like '99, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I just remember like Green Day having like the biggest impact, and like that's when I was like, I got to get a guitar. I was like, I want to learn how to do this. That's when it first started. But I didn't actually learn anything until like I was 22. I never actually started playing until I was 22. So yeah, but that was the first spark, and I was like, yeah, probably Hetfield and Billy Joel Armstrong.
Now, how were you discovering these specific bands? Because I know during that whole time era, for me personally, I was watching a lot of VH1 because they were showing music videos at like 6 a.m. in the morning. So,
exactly.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm right there. Dude, VH1 MTV was on that constantly. It was like, I loved all that music. I loved all the music stuff.
And it was kind of, sure, and not to cut you off, but it was kind of right before they had MTV2. Do you remember when that whole...
Oh yeah, totally, yeah. Where they were trying to like, hey, we're gonna have like actual music on this kind of.
Right, and then it ended up, I can't remember what happened to that specific station, but then MTV obviously turned into what they became and were becoming in the 90s, right? So
Jersey Shore probably happened. That's what happened to them.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, after this whole thing, how are you discovering, I guess, the heavier hitters? Because, we got to think around this time, you were in what? Elementary school, 7th, 8th grade. Okay.
3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. That's when I was very aware of Metallica, and I was very aware of Megadeth, and but I was listening to Aerosmith, and I was like into like MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice at one point. But I was just always in like John Cougar Mellencamp, Bryan Adams. Like my mom loved that stuff, and she'd be playing, and I'd like be into it. But it was always like a dude with a guitar, like a frontman, And I kind of like that was like just that whole silhouette, and everything. I was like, I want to do that, I want to play music, and I was just like, but finding out about the heavy bands that came a little bit later, like later in my teens, late teens, high school and stuff.
Were your friends just showing you some of the heavier style bands? And around this specific time, were you wanting to actually play an instrument yourself, or when did that whole thing kind of come into your career, so to speak?
Yeah, I guess all through my life, no matter what I was doing, I was always kind of like a metalhead. but I was like the only one in my friend group. Like nobody, like I was the only guy that would have like, you know, the Justice cassette or Master of Puppets and stuff, or Rain and Blood, or some Anthrax CDs and stuff like that, or Rust in Peace laying around, you know. I mean, it was like mandatory, and that and Guns N' Roses and stuff. I had to have it, but like, yeah, like I've always wanted to play guitar, but there was a couple of like times I gave it a shot early on, but just like, you know, no one was there to show me like a power chord or even show me how to tune it. I was like a little kid, so I'm just like strumming on it, you know, muting the strings, and that's all I kind of did for a minute. And then later on, yeah, when I found out about the heavier bands was like, I was used to be heavily into riding BMX. That was like my thing. And I had my buddy Shad. He's like, he knew I loved horror movies and I was into metal stuff, but like he knew I didn't know about like rad bands like the underground. And he showed me Merciful Fate, King Diamond, and it was like, it was all over then. That was like, then I was like, dude, what? And then I got kind of thrown into the underground metal, you know, life or like scene or whatever. But you know, just listening to it as a fan. And then like 3 Inches of Blood came around, and that was like, that era is when I was like, oh man, I'm really stoked on this shit, you know, like, but I still hadn't picked up the guitar for real yet.
Now, let me ask you this, because you mentioned BMX, and again, I'm pertaining it to my specific life, and I was always into, you know, making jumps out of mud and fucking, you know, clearing over some ramps and jumps, and especially with skateboarding and whatnot. So I'm curious how much of the video game aspect came into how you were discovering these bands with like Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Did any of this come into play with you? Because again, BMX, I'm assuming you were playing that stuff. So
that's a real good question, because like when I was into BMX and stuff, and I'd watch skate videos, and they'd always have like really rad music for the people's, the, you know, skateboarder or the rider's part. And there was one video came out that had like a dude was riding to Dyer's Eve, and it was just like the raddest thing you've ever seen. You know, it was like dude just like charging hitting all these crazy street spots and gnarly rails, and it's like Dyer's Eve is blasted, and it just fit. And I was like, I love the music with the riding and how it mixed. And there's another gnarly dude that was just doing like the gnarliest street stuff, and he's riding to Rain and Blood, and it's just like so good. And Angel of Death, like they kind of mixed it together, and it was like, what? And I was like, so I kind of fell in love with music even more, because in visual stuff too. But I was like, I want to play guitar one of these days. I want to learn how to do it, you know. But yeah, I still hadn't really done it yet until I was like 22 when I started.
it's interesting with our age group growing up in the 90s, how much of video games played an aspect into how we were discovering new music, or old new music, whatever you want to call it, because those specific games for me personally had a lot of punk bands, and I discovered a lot of punk bands. So I'm assuming, again, with the same for you.
I had a huge punk era, dude. I was like, NoFX is still one of my favorite bands, but like that whole, like that kind of era stuff, you know, like early 2000s, like 90s, like Fat Records, Epitaph, like kind of pop punk, I guess you can call it. But I just love the energy of it, and like the fast crunching of the chords, and just like that energy. And that later came to play why I fell in love with thrash so much, and then finally realized what that even was. Because I was like, oh, it's like heavy metal but punk and crossed over, and that energy and that beat. And I was like, that's what stokes me out on that shit, you know? So
you make a really good point. Obviously, NoFX and Pennywise and bands such as this were huge.
Pennywise.
Sure. But okay, so going off of this and the next phase with you personally, so I guess how were you, explain the scene. You mentioned you were obviously going to more underground shows maybe a little bit after this point, but I'm just kind of curious, as far as the overall metal scene, what was most prevalent in, and obviously we're talking about Oregon at this point. What part of Oregon?
Since '83, yeah. PDX is, I've always been here. But yeah, that's a good question, because it was there. That was a big part of it, because I started to find out more about underground metal bands that were happening, like 3 Inches of Blood. And so like when they came through Portland all the time. I mean, I've seen them like over 13 times, I think. But like, so they would come, and then all the rad PDX underground bands would be there, and they'd be so rad. And I'm thinking they're on tour, and they're on, you know, like Metal Blade and shit. But it's like Spellcaster, you know, the guys from Idle Hands, you know, on two others, and like Excruciator and Stone Creep, is this Bewitcher now. So like I saw these dudes that were like already kind of doing it, and I was playing guitar at this point. So yeah, so I kind of jumped past when I started playing guitar. But you asked about the scene when I started going to shows. I had been playing guitar for like probably 5 years or so, but not really taking it serious yet. But it was because of the underground bands I was really finding out about and stuff, and the scene here and stuff too.
Interesting. So let's go back to that point, if you don't mind me asking. Yeah. And what was actually your first guitar that you initially bought, or did your parents buy it for you, or why the guitar?
There was like I said, when I was talking about like in the early 90s, like one Christmas I got like this Costco freaking Strat copy, but it was like just a turd, so it's like, and that's, I got it, had like the little amp, and it was just like, and this does not sound like Basket Case or When I Come Around, dude, like this don't sound like, In Bloom, or like Injustice for All or like that. So I had no idea. And so then I just, it just immediately like went back to play Super Nintendo or something, I ride my bike around. So like, that was, but then when I bought my first real guitar, it was in 2004 is actually when I started playing. In 2005, sorry, early 2005. And I bought a Washburn, just like, cheap, really cheesy V. It had like skull. I actually had a skull on it, but like I was like, Washburn's good because Dimebag played Washburns. So like, and it just kind of looked cool. And I just got it, and then I bought like some crate combo amp at Guitar Center, and then I dove headfirst into it, and I started teaching myself since then. Day one.
Old school crate. Do they even make crate anymore? I doubt it.
This was like a new school crate too. It was like supposed to be like a vintage kind of amp. On like why the dude sold it to me. Obviously, I was like, I want to sound like Pantera, and he's like, here's this crate amp that looks like it's a vintage Fender. I'm like, thanks, dude. Like great.
Even though Dime played, I think Randall's at this point, or Cranks it, and we got to mention this too. Around this specific time, obviously, Dime, with his unfortunate passing, Washburn and Dean guitars made a huge jump as far as guitar sales. I remember a lot more people buying those. What is it? What's the Dime model?
It's the Dean ML, the ML,
or the Razorbacks. One of those two.
Yeah, those Razorbacks. Yeah, those are kind of too cheesy for me. I love the ML though. I gotta admit, I had my phase and I bought. Dude, I helped Dean make that money because I bought several of those Dean MLs. Because like the question you just like, the fact you just brought up the whole Dimebag, murder and everything. That is the main ingredient, the main reason why I was like, I'm buying a fucking guitar and I'm playing. And that because of how he was murdered. It was because of him. It stoked me out. Like I found out he was murdered, and then like somehow got like obsessed with it. Like, and I started listening to Pantera like crazy, and then it was like all she wrote. And I was like, I'm playing now,
It's we have the same story almost because even though because around this time, again, I'm not trying to make it all about me, but
no,
I was like 12, 13 around this time. So this is when I was first getting into guitar. But so if you're a couple of years old, this would explain how you got into it so late. So
I'm always late to the game.
So in high school, were you one of the only ones that are one of the only musicians around your specific high school, or did you start to meet more musicians around this point in your age group and form bands?
Not till like my early 30s, man. My like late 20s, early 30s, because I'm 39 now, and so I'm like the whole like generation, the whole scene I jumped into were like always 10 years younger than me. Like all those guys are 10 years younger. Like all my bandmates have always been 10 years younger. Like it's just been that way. I'm just like a late bloomer, because I didn't start playing when I was a teenager. I started playing when I was 22 or 23.
So when was the point when, obviously you mentioned where you were going to a lot of these live shows and seeing local bands and inspired you to formulate your first. So when was that specific point in your career?
Okay, that's probably late 2008, 2009, 2010 is when I was like, that's when I really wanted to start a band. And it was like, because it was heavily influenced by like that new wave of thrash that came through, and like Warbringer, Havoc, Skeleton Witch, Toxic Holocaust, just like all that stuff. And I was like, holy shit. You know, I was like, it was more raw, you know, and it wasn't like, it didn't sound like Metallica production. So I was like thinking like, well, shit, I seen a drummer. I could do that. You know, more just more of a stripped down, you know, version, like a 3-piece. And so that's when I was like, I started thinking I could do it, you know, start a band. And that's when I started like, I got to find a drummer, you know, like, and I started writing riffs. But yeah, like bands like that. And then also like bands like Black Dahlia Murder and Mastodon, huge influence on me. They helped me get out of the whole Pantera phase I had, because I would have never got out of it. I would have had a goatee, been pink, I'd be wearing camo cargos right now if it hadn't if I'd been for them, you know. So like in those other bands I mentioned. But yeah, it got me more into like starting to want to start my own thing and be, and I just see what happens, you know, like write whatever comes up.
Now, why was it that, I mean, again, so obviously we're going to mention this too, and it's not to downplay any of the bands, but a lot of these bands around this time were kind of Pantera clones because of the whole thing too. So especially when you make your way out to the like Midwest area, you would see a lot more of these bands. So how did you see that right away and just try to I guess shift your focus into something more original and not get stuck in just being a fucking Pantera clone band or any of this stuff?
It wasn't like when I was like, you know, he was like the main inspiration for me to play. It was like just because like his energy, like he put out on stage, the way he played, like how just rad he made it look. You know, I'd watch that 91 Donington video all the time. He's playing in front of 1 million people. I was like, dude, that's what I want to fucking do. You know, he looks like he's having the time of his life. You know, like, but I never like, I don't think I ever was like wanting to have a Pantera type band, because I was still into like old school Metallica. You know, I never liked anything after Black Album, and I never did, like, even when I was a little kid. So, and like in Megadeth and stuff, and so I was into Anthrax stoked me out really big that time, and but like a band like Early Man, I don't know if you heard of Early Man, like that old 2-piece from, you know, East Coast. That
Sure.
band, that Early Man was a big inspiration on me to think, you know, to really start thinking like, just write whatever comes out, and like, you know, don't think about, you know, like, don't try to make it sound like, you know, groove metal, power groove, or whatever Pantera stuff. But it's just like whatever, and I started just kind of writing thrash stuff.
It's interesting that you're saying, obviously you're taking your, I would say, top 10, 15 bands and formulating into one rather than just focusing on one. And there's a great Phil Anselmo quote that obviously I'm kind of referencing here, where it's like, you know, don't try and sound like your favorite band, try and sound like your favorite 15 bands. And then that's how you kind of formulate your sound and whatnot. Yeah. So now, walk me through the Death Proof and just the origins of the name.
Oh, dude, yeah, I've heard that. I haven't heard those words together for a while. So, anyways, like when I found out, like a BMX buddy of mine, I found out he played drums, my buddy Dustin. So I round him up, and he had a kit. No, he didn't even have a kit. You know, the cliche. Found a drummer, but he don't have a drum kit, and he doesn't have a place to play, and he doesn't even have a car. You know, that type of shit. And then like so, but I knew he could keep a beat. And then so like my other BMX buddy Clay bought a kit, and he had it in his house, and I was like, all these pieces were coming together, and I was like, oh dude, we got a jam spot, you know, we got amps, you know, I already had like my Gibson Explorer at that time, and I got PV 6505 and stuff like that, and but yeah, that's when I was like, okay, I want to start a band. What was this question again? Anyways, I wanted to start rambling.
I was just curious how you guys came upon the name Death Proof. And
that was, how that was. We're sitting around one day trying to figure out how we're gonna, you know, what we're gonna call the band. And I was like literally looking down my movies, my DVDs and stuff, you know. I'm like, Excellent Adventure, you know, or, you know, shit like that, and like, you know, Evil Dead, you know, of course can't do that, you know, Army of Darkness, and I'm like looking at Death Proof, and I keep looking at that Quentin Tarantino movie Death Proof, because I had it with the Planet Terror combo thing. I was like, Death Proof's kind of tight, I think, you know, but like we'll spell it like DETH, like Megadeth, and just make it one word to look cooler. And I was just like, but I then was wanting to call the band Weresquatch, but the other guys were like, nah, screw that Weresquatch shit. And so we called the band Death Proof.
And around this time, so you obviously formulate the band, get all the pieces together. Now, walk me through that whole feeling of just rehearsing for the first time and just I know it's hard to explain, but can you give me
Yeah.
some sense of that feeling of just putting out, or just writing and putting out original material for that first moment? It's so, again, it's gonna be hard for you to answer this question, but
You know what I'm saying. You know how it is. Like, dude, it's like, I don't know. It's my favorite part of the whole process. I can give a shit about anything else, really. It's like giving birth to the riff and jamming it out for the first time with the drummer and it playing out. And it's just like, whoa, man. And like, you put the whole thing together. Yeah. But like the first time doing that, I knew that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I was like, this is what I should be doing. And so like, I was just started just, trying to get them down there as much as possible to rehearse and everything.
And walk me through the differences in terms of musicality wise between Death Proof and what Weresquatch became.
Oh, so I had Death Proof was going on for a minute. That's when we first started, like when I first started playing live and in Portland and getting shows going. And then had that going for, and those other original members, they're gone. And so I'm like, I got new members, and I'm still thinking about that Weresquatch thing. And I was like, I want a more original name, blah blah, because I found out there's other Death Proofs out there. And I was like, Weresquatch was the only thing original I could come up with. Still at that point, I was kind of digging it. I always been obsessed with Sasquatches, like, so that's why people be calling Squatch Lord and stuff. And it's just like, and so I finally I switched it. I go, let's call it the band Weresquatch, and that was like 2010 or 2011, I think. Yeah, that's when that kind of became the thing.
Sure, but again, my initial question was, the differences in terms of musicality wise. Were you playing more of a thrashy variety and Death Proof compared to Weresquatch, or more death metal oriented? Or I'm just kind of curious how the evolution of it.
Yeah, it was just like, if that kept evolving, it was just like had Death Proof is definitely more simple riffs. That's when I first started writing the riffs. But I was also getting into more bands, more extreme bands, like listening to Death and like just getting to learning more about other bands, like black metal bands, like Dissection and stuff. And Skeleton Witch was huge on me. And then I started the progression of writing just kind of was natural, So like I didn't think like, oh, now it's Weresquatch, I'm going to start doing it gnarlier. It just was like whatever I was writing, It was just like whatever's coming out.
Did you ever record with Death Proof? Are there any demos that are just floating around out there, or
maybe on Reverb Nation? Dude, honestly, I think they're on there. But no, it's I got a song called "They Live" on there. I think it's one called "Machete Maniac." But
okay, so more movie references as far as the early stuff. Okay,
I'm all about movies. Huge influence. Yeah. I mean, like I got so many John Carpenter shirts. I don't know what to do with them. It's like I got everything around. I love horror movies.
Now, you mentioned that you started to go to more local shows underground. Was this the moment where obviously Death Proof started to play more live shows and you established more connections as far as promoters go or venues? Because I don't know how much metal per se is out in Portland around this specific time, because everything was happening obviously where I'm from, which is like LA, Orange County area. So as far as metal goes.
Yeah, that's a good question, because once I found out about like these more like the Portland based bands, like I mentioned, like Spellcaster, Excruciator, Stone Creep, stuff like that. And I was like, whoa, there's dudes in this town that are like doing this stuff. And like, I didn't have any heavy metal friends like at that. I mean, I had a couple like BMX buddies that were into heavy metal, but like, I didn't know any of these dudes. So it was, how I got into it was just, just started playing, like just trying to ask it on shows basically. And then just kind of, just trying to get on a Spellcaster show and meet the guys, and like get on a Excruciator show and meet that, cause they were like on Earache. Excruciator was on an Earache and stuff at that time. And it was just like, they were killing it. Whenever rad bands came through, they always opened up for them. So like, I just kind of like squeezed my way in there, just kept asking to play shows, just kept emailing, adding people on Facebook, MySpace and stuff.
Now you mentioned MySpace, and I'm curious how much of social media played a part in you discovering the underground scene.
Huge. And then, huge. And being able to like see like the members, like, like them just like seeing the life, how, being on tour, and I was like so fascinated with it. I love traveling, so I was like, I knew touring would be like my favorite thing in the world if I ever got a chance to do it. So I was just like, I knew I was game for it. And then, but yeah, just seeing all those bands like Saviors and Skeleton Witch, and this having them on there, and it's like you can listen to it all the time. And then there was like on TV, there was like that music choice thing, that cable thing, and it had like videos on all the time that you could watch whenever. And it was like, that was huge too. But yeah,
Right.
it's by chance, because like I said, I didn't have any like buddies. I didn't grow up with like a gang of metalheads. It was just me and a bunch of people listen to like Tupac and stuff.
Nothing wrong with Tupac, dude. Nothing wrong with Tupac.
Yeah.
So going off of this point, so we also had blogs and whatnot. And again, I have to ask the stupid question, but how much of that played into part of how you discovered, again, the LA market per se and bands of the underground?
The blog stuff, no, I never been in that. I got in that kind of stuff per se, but like, just like, I don't know, just once I kind of got tapped into like that whole underground metal scene, you just kind of started finding out about bands and where they're from and stuff. But like, the LA stuff just by happens, by chance. I mean, I didn't really like dig that hard. It was like, oh, there's a Warbringer video on Music Choice, and there's Toxic Holocaust, and it's like, they're like, okay, look these guys up on MySpace or Facebook, and then add them on there and follow them, and then you start finding out about other bands through them too. It's kind of like a ripple effect,
right? Like almost like a rabbit hole.
It's almost like trading, but like not actually. It's on social media. That's the way I had to do it,
and it's free.
Exactly.
Right?
It was rad.
When was the moment when you specifically, obviously, let's get behind the name of Weresquatch, and obviously the origins of where it came from, because where do I find a Squatch per se? Like,
it's pretty funny. People ask me, what's the origin of the Weresquatch? Well, I'm like, basically it's a hybrid werewolf Sasquatch, or it could be like a person that turns into a Sasquatch on a full moon or whatever, some shit, but like, because he could be like a werewolf or a were-duck or something. You turn into a duck. But so how it came about was weird. Like I mentioned earlier, I've always been into Sasquatches because I've always lived up here in the Northwest, and I've always like kind of believed in them. I don't know. so I just kind of stoked. I got a giant Sasquatch tattoo on my side too and everything. So like one day, this is a funny question too, because like how I came up with the name, it just came to me because of a Black Dahlia Murder shirt. They had like this really neon purple and pink shirt that had this gnarly werewolf on it, like it was this ripping flesh and stuff. And I was looking at it, and he was like a really overgrown werewolf thing, and it's just like really gnarly and cool. And I was like, and I just went Weresquatch, and that was it. And I was like, I'm gonna start a band, call it Weresquatch. that was 2008, so that was early. Yeah.
Wow. So and so obviously we established that Weresquatch kind of came into the fold around 2011, 2012 era.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And walk me through just obviously finding the new members and recording essentially what would become your first, I guess, proper release, which would be the self-titled EP.
Yeah. So I'm probably on my third drummer at this point. This old buddy of mine, still a good friend of mine, Ty Ward. I just met him at a burlesque show in town, and he was wearing an Evil Dead shirt, and I was wearing like an Evil Dead shirt, I think. And it was instantly like, hey, what's up? You play music? Oh yeah, you play drums? Yeah, I play guitar. I got a jam space over here. Let's jam. Boom. He's in the band. And so I met Ty, and he was like really stoked on it. He was like one of the funnest guys to write riffs with, and it's like really just as motivated. Finally got like a guy that was just as motivated as me to be down at the rehearsal space. Like he was always stoked to be down there. And just helpful with writing different arrangements and riffs and stuff. But I started playing with him, and then he was like, we should record a demo. I was like, yeah, and so he's like, I know this guy at Smegma Studios, we can just go there and just play through him one weekend and he'll record them. And we did it analog too. We just did it one cut.
Wow. So this explains so much, because so he had more of the connection based.
Yeah, he was more connected with the scene than I was. So he was a huge part of that too. Yeah.
Now, what is your overall dynamic with him in terms of your chemistry with the writing? What does he bring more to the table than you do, or vice versa?
Well, he was like a super. He is a super awesome guitar player. He was in this band called Heathen Shrine. Super gnarly tech death stuff, like just miles beyond my playing ability at that time. And he was just like a killer guitar player. And but he was he just had like a background in drums too, and he in punk and stuff, and like he just like grew up on all that thrash stuff. He was an encyclopedia of knowledge for music too. So he helped me. He opened me up to a lot of stuff. And but yeah, us riffing though, he just had this energy. He had a super bright energy, and he was always a stoked. He was he was like really had a lot of input. He wasn't just sitting there just like whatever. Yeah, he was like really stoked, and he's a guitar player, so he could help with riffs too.
And I'm assuming he handled more of the business aspects, so booking shows and
that was all me. It's always been me. I've always done that stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So the EP gets recorded. Now, what is the initial reaction around your specific area, and how do you properly promote this around this specific time period? Because I'm assuming you didn't have PR connections or this, that, and the other.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, this is. So we get that sucker, recorded. I looked at it as a glorified demo because it was like, it basically was, but it was cool. And my first real recording experience, and it was like super fun and everything. And so we got through that, and doing vocals and stuff on it and everything. And it was just like the first time really doing that stuff. So it was cool. And then so like by releasing it, we didn't like. We just finally put it out there because we just wanted something out there that was kind of cool, that represented what we were doing and sounded good. But like but from promoting it, like I knew we needed to get it mastered, and that's how I got in touch and got connected with Joel Grime, because he was mixing and mastering people's stuff, from wherever he was at the time, like in LA, or I think he might have moved to Portland at that time by then. I think, actually, he was still down in LA at the time. But yeah, so I was like, I want him to like put his touch on it. Because like it's like make it sound as rad as possible, and like just kind of, like I want to be involved. I want to like meet these guys, I want to like, just I don't know. I was like he'd be stoked if he mastered it. I thought so. We had him do it, and that's how I met him.
Interesting. And I'm gonna go off subject here, so just bear with me and just let's just let it flow. Around this time, I'm just curious. You guys were playing a lot of live shows, correct?
Yeah.
So recently I've discovered a couple soundboard recordings that I never heard from us, and I'm curious, did you ever have any of those shows recorded, and could you potentially release any of them? Are they
like sound? No, probably not. I mean, they might be out there. I don't know, but yeah, that's a good question, because we played like a lot of shows at this place called Hawthorne Theater, and that's where like big acts come, like Death Angel and stuff, and whoever, Anthrax, Exodus, not Pantera, like Municipal Waste and stuff. And we started hopping on, like, we did like, it was basically like a pay to play thing. So, but yeah, but like, you sell these tickets and you get to open up for these guys. We did that for a long time, but like, it'd be cool if they recorded something, but no, I don't think we have anything like that out there.
Really? Because I would assume it'd be so easy just to do that. Venues have the capacity of doing that stuff. So
yeah. It would be definitely like there was some like video and stuff. There's like people got video and stuff, but I don't think there's any like good audio recording. But that would be super rad to hear. That'd be interesting as hell. Yeah.
Right. And I was just generally curious with that stuff, because I always love hearing these like hidden gems, so to speak. Yeah. And even if it's not the greatest, but still just to document those times is super important for any band. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, like I'm like when I watch like when I get stoked on music, I'll pull up like those old like 85 to 87, 88, Metallica videos. But like with the giant camcorder, where all you hear is people screaming and ecstatic, and like it's just like they come out and just destroy for hour and a half, and you're like, what the? And I'm just watching it on my YouTube, on my computer. I'm like, just imagine being there. But yeah, like or hearing those those onboard recordings or whatever. They sound so rad, like how raw it is and the energy and stuff. You could, like that's real shit.
Right. Yeah. And it's almost, I wouldn't call it a bootleg, but I really love bootlegs for any of your favorite bands. It's just super important. So obviously when you release that stuff, there's nothing you can do about the mix, but just generally curious if you guys had any in your guys' quote unquote vault, because every band has a vault.
Nah, I don't think so. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool to look it up, but I don't know.
There might be one out there, man. You might find one and release it later on. So let's go off of off this point. Around 2013, 2014, was this the moment when you guys started to tour around outside of Portland?
Yeah, like, well, yeah, we would go up to Seattle, Tacoma, and stuff every once in a while. I mean, I can't really remember when it was like the first we did a West Coast run, and I think that's one of the first time we met you guys down there in LA or whatever it was at the side door.
Slide bar.
Yeah. And I think that was our first West Coast run. Yeah, and that was like that, but that was like after we released the first full length. I think that was
Right.
Like, but yeah, we were just playing around Portland and the Northwest area. Like we didn't really go anywhere else.
Okay, maybe I'm confusing the time period. You're right. It was around 2015, 2016. So let's go prior to this. So your first album, what made you guys want to record a first album around the mid quote unquote tens?
Oh, the mid tens, yeah. Like so, like talking about like Frozen Void, the first full length.
Correct.
Yeah, like that was because I had Tyler Becker got on board for drums, and he's this killer, you know, obviously, and like playing with him forever now. But so he was on drums. I had awesome lead guitar player, Alex Ponder, who plays for Leather Bitch and stuff now, and he was just like Richie Blackmore, but super shreddy and stuff, and it was just like killer. And I had my buddy Wes on bass, and to me, that I felt like finally had like the full. The formula was there. I had in my head, I had all the right pieces in place, all the right members, and it was, vibing really well and writing stuff. So yeah, I was like, time to record that first length, the first full length, let's get in there and do it. Because we had the songs, so it was like time to go and record it.
And again, why not go back to like Joe Grind and whatnot at this point?
Oh, we did.
Okay, good.
Yeah, this is when we really got to know Joel when we became buddies and stuff. So like, Joel was living here, and he was recording bands in town, like, doing all the engineering and stuff and producing. So of course, and I was already like talking to him a bunch after he mastered our first little demo or EP deal. And so we just went and hit him up and like, yeah, let's book a week with Joel. And we went in there and went to Falcon Studios, where like a lot of bands in Portland recorded at. And it was like, here we are with Joel, and we're tracking. And we did it in a week, 7 days. Or 7 days we did it.
So did he have more input as far as mixing and mastering and just recording in general? Because I thought you mentioned he only did a certain portion of the EP.
The EP, he just mastered it, yeah.
Okay. So he had more input as far as recording, and was he helping you guys arrange the songs and whatnot and cutting parts out like a real producer?
Yeah, I know. Like he didn't really like, there was no like producer stuff going down really. It was just like, we already had these songs and it was our first one. And we're just like, we wanted to see if we can get this shit done in a week, because it was like, recording's not cheap, it's not free. So we just got in there and got it done. But no, he was just like tracking, getting the best performances out of us and stuff. And it was just like, yeah, really cool, really awesome experience, learning experience for me. Like just like being in the room with somebody like that and recording, like trying to get more comfortable with it, like kind of confidence building and stuff. And like, but yeah, it was super fun. He's like he's super fun to record with. He's just super funny. It was a great time.
And I'm going to get to the album cover per se, and it's obviously on the screen here, but even before this, when does Stormspell come into play here? Because they were releasing obviously some thrash like splits with bands and whatnot. And around this time period, they were releasing a lot more thrash oriented albums, and obviously this is one of them. So I'm just curious when that whole thing comes into play here.
Oh, so yeah, so Stormspell, like once we got Frozen Void done and recorded and everything, and Joel mixed and mastered it also, and handed it over, and we had it, and he said like, he goes, don't self-release this, guys, don't sell yourself short, try to get someone to release it for you, and so we started sending out to labels. And Stormspell, I knew about Stormspell because Tyler's other band, Gladius, at the time already had like a little CD distribution deal with them. So I hit him up, and the dude, he wrote me back real quick, and then we started talking to him, and he hooked us up, helped us out.
Did you have the album artwork right then and there? Okay, so you had everything.
Yeah, we need someone to like put it on whatever kind of format for us, and like we just wanted to get something, some kind of legitness, legitness in there,
And who actually did this album cover, if you don't mind me asking?
Andre Buzikov, I think he said it. Like he did a lot of waste stuff, you know.
Yeah, and he's a lot more people are going to him per se.
Yeah.
For their album covers these days, because I think he did a couple. Didn't he do Toxic Holocaust as well? I think he did.
Yeah, he did one of Toxics, and then but he did a lot of stuff for Municipal Waste, and so yeah, I was really aware of him at the time, and like, of course, we're like get Repka, you know, or something, you know, like yeah, like you know, way a lot of money, but like yeah, we were hitting up. I was hitting up comic book artists and stuff, you know, that I saw like that did red artwork and but I hit up Andre and it seemed like the right guy for it. You know, he said he could do it in time frame because we had everything ready to go. And we wanted to get out as soon as we could. And he was like the perfect guy for it. And he's like, yeah, all the ideas I threw at him, he was like, just brought, you know, made it reality. It was rad.
Now with Stormspell, were they just doing the distro for you? Did you guys have to handle the PR at this point, or
yeah,
okay?
Yeah, all they did was the CD distro stuff, and like they might have shared it on their Facebook. You know, but yeah, it was all us, you know, like I don't think he cared about selling those CDs or something too bad. Cause I don't know. He didn't really try to hustle them out for us.
Cause I didn't even know this. Again, you got to excuse my ignorance here, but I didn't even know this came out on Stormspell.
Oh yeah. Hell, I almost forgot too. So yeah. No, but it's funny because Stormspell released the next one too. So yeah, I love those. He's cool. So yeah, he's always
right. Well, I knew that they released the maddening memoir.
Oh yeah. They had like I think they had like two different like logos now. There's like one from that back then and the new one. So he might have like didn't even notice. He probably saw it and didn't think it was Stormspell.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that too.
Rebranded or something.
But I just remember not seeing this album cover is my point. Like I didn't get to see it around this time period. And you guys obviously toured for it as well. So it just explain the initial reaction either on the road or locally wise or both when it came to the Frozen Void and how you guys obviously getting the CDs in your hand and being like, fuck, this is awesome. It's a real fucking CD.
Oh yeah. The insert and stuff, you know, there are pictures in there and like, you know, the thanks and stuff. You know, I was like, you know, I used to look at read Metallica's all the time and Anthrax, all the people they're thinking and stuff. And it's like, you tell like their inside jokes and their homies and stuff. But yeah, it was just like, it was so cool to write that stuff out. Like, you know, but yeah, it was like just getting it in hand. It was like, yeah, it was really cool. It was kind of surreal, you know. I was like, hell yeah, we're doing it, you know. Like, and then you know, then these dudes hooked us up in town and put them out on cassette, a little small run of cassettes, and that was really cool, you know. Like, hell yeah, because I grew up on cassettes. And I was like, hell yeah, I got a cassette of the first record, you know. So yeah.
And this was during the time too when cassettes weren't like nearly like as hip as they are now.
So, yeah, they sold quick though. They always sell faster than the CDs. You know, like if you have like 100 of them, they go quicker. If you have 15 of them, they go quick too. Like it's like, damn, they're all gone.
Well, it's like a novelty. Part of it's nostalgia.
I wonder how people are actually using those and listening to them.
You know, I wonder too because I like to keep mine in the plastic, but I'm a collector. So, how much touring did you guys end up doing for this specific record besides the West Coast for maybe like 2 weeks, if I have my cards right at this point?
When we played with you guys down there, yeah,
correct.
That was like 5 shows, I think, 5 or 6 shows a week long. And it was like the first time, like, okay, we're doing it, you know, and we didn't even have a bass player at the time. So we went out with 2 guitars and 1 drum and the drums and we just played, you know, and like, but yeah, that was our first, you know, doing like a kind of legit tour. But then we got asked to do that Striker tour, which was more of a national run with Spellcaster and stuff. And that's when we like really got thrown, you know, really did a real tour. But yeah, that's when we meet people like in Kentucky, and the dude would actually have her CD, and he'd be like, you know, he's stoked on it, and he said he found it at some used, you know, like a GameStop or something. You know, I'm like, what? And that's when you start finding out, like, oh damn, this stuff is circulating. You know, like start getting fans from Russia and Japan and China and like, you know, Brazil and stuff. They're writing all these messages, and you're just like, you know, Bandcamp was huge too. You know, Bandcamp's the best. I think I love Bandcamp.
Oh, interesting. So I didn't realize Bandcamp went that far back. I thought that was like a new revolution within like 5 or 6 years, but you might be right as far as that goes.
Bandcamp was around for Frozen Void for sure. I mean, we released it on there first, I think. Yeah.
I'm such a late bloomer on this shit when it comes to like
Bandcamp. Yeah, Bandcamp rules because it's like the people can write messages or like give like reviews on your page and stuff. It's rad.
I think this was probably in its infant stage too, right? Because
it was brand new. I just heard of it at that time. So yeah, I was like, oh, where everybody's using this now. Okay, let's go use that.
Now, as far as the music goes, how was the initial reaction towards people doing, even just locally wise?
Oh yeah, it definitely kind of. I feel like it kind of put us up on like a little bit of a higher level because of like like seriousness or something. Like we're trying to do this, and like there was a lot of Portland bands that would never make it to that point. They'd put like a rad EP out or something, some demo, and it blows up. But then like 6 months later, they're toast. They're split up to all these other bands, and then they never record that first full length. But yeah, we got to that point. We got that first full length out. So yeah, that showed like the promoters in town and other bands that we were like taking it serious. So yeah, we definitely got better opportunities for sure.
Now,
and like.
Sure, not to cut you off again, but I'm just curious as far as the legitimacy goes. What you're saying, does it come with releasing a full length record, or does it come with being signed and or both?
Well, I think just putting the full length album together is more like, for me personally, it makes it more like the legitimacy. Yeah, but I never felt like we were signed, so I never had that. I've never had that feeling, so I don't know what that's even like, but I'm sure it's cool. But like we only got like distro deals, and it was like, yeah, we'll make this many, we give you this many, you guys can sell them whenever, we're gonna sell these. But yeah, so like it was cool to think that they were supporting, they're knowing they're supporting you and stuff. But yeah, I wasn't like, oh, you got a record deal, It was like, but yeah, it was just like. But having like having someone put it out, having like the actual physical CD, and having merch, playing every show we could, trying to get on every show that was like for all the touring bands coming through, being the local opener band,
And were you guys still doing pay to play, even though you had a full length album and were quote unquote signed and
yeah, like, but we'll kind of I think after Frozen Void we kind of like retired that shit because like. It was never like we actually literally paid. It was just like we had to work and hustle those tickets. So like the first time we get like, like, hey, if you guys want to play with Death Angel, can you sell 50 tickets? That type of vibe, that kind of pressure. And so then you sell them all your aunts and uncles and family members, then you actually sell them those first time. That promoter will let you on another one. But if you don't produce those 50 tickets or so again, they're like, well, screw you guys. We need one other band that has all the aunts and uncles coming, cousins.
Sure. Now let's go to this point or whatever. Around like 2017, 2018, I remember when Madrost was touring with Silent Scream, we came through Portland, and I believe you guys played with us.
I think we did.
Because I remember running into you in that parking lot. It was like the Twilight Zone bar. What is it? Yeah, there you go. That place.
Yeah. That was when you guys came. Yeah, that's when we. When you guys came through Portland not too long ago. Yeah, that was
right.
That's the first show. That's the first venue I ever played in Portland too. That one. Yeah.
Is that place even still there anymore?
The building is, but the Twilight Cafe is at a different location now, which is bummer.
I see. I just remember maybe because it was an off night, but I had a lot of fun playing it. I just remember not going over so well as far as the people goes, but it's also, a lot of stuff was probably happening that day, and it was probably on like a Tuesday or something like that, right?
Yeah, so if it's like a weekday, it's always tough. And then like also if there's another show in town, oh man, like it's hard to get people out. If there's like just one show, it's cool because everybody comes, but like it can get split up pretty quick. Yeah, for sure.
I just noticed a lot more, I guess, thrash-oriented bands coming out of Portland around this specific time period. So,
yeah,
were you guys starting to play any festivals around this time in Portland or anything? Is there any of that stuff going on?
Well, at one point we got asked to play I can't remember what the hell it's called, but it was a big metal fest that like all the rad bands around would play, and who puts it on is the guy from Ceremonial Castings, Uwada. Jake, he puts on this rad show, like 3-day festival, and he asked us to play it at one point, and yeah, we ended up not doing it because one of the members had like a family emergency at the time. But like it was rad. Like that's like the first like legitimate when we got asked to be on and being recognized by the peers, because like those guys, like the guys in Uwata and Ceremonial Castings, like they're legends. They're black metal, like they rule black metal in America, I think. Like they're awesome.
What is your favorite aspect as far as music goes? Are you mentioned touring, you've mentioned recording, you've mentioned playing like a show in general, producing. What is your favorite aspect with just in music in general?
Oh, really? I mean, all of it for like to be honest, I love all of it. But like I said earlier, like probably my favorite thing is the songwriting part of it. Just like that's huge for me. That's always like that really gets me stoked on it. Then that kind of snowballs in it. Fine tuning it and then bringing it, playing it live. And that's like it's awesome. That's the whole process of songwriting is one of my favorite parts. And getting really into the lyrics and stuff. It's hard, it's like, you probably experienced too. Lyrics are always tough. But like once you finally get stoked on an idea, you're like, oh shit, this is gonna be cool, and like, yeah, that stuff. But I love playing live, obviously. I love the energy when it's a rad crowd and everything. But I love the interaction with the musicians also, the other members, like just bouncing off each other, ideas and stuff.
Are you kind of a band that writes together in a garage or a jam space, or are you guys more, I guess, doing it on Superior Drummer or something and formulating your songs that way? Do you like both aspects?
Yeah, that's a good question because I might have the setup for computer stuff, but I am not good with it. I'm just figuring it out now. So like I just got like the stuff now, but no, I've always been like an old school guy. Like I'm gonna like be in a rehearsal space with a real drummer, real members. But usually all I need is the drummer, So I got to have that, and I really can't I never programmed drums in my life, Like I've never done that. I play along with the click and write riffs, or I'll pull up the drum tracks on YouTube and write my riffs, something like just kind of improv over it. And that's when I don't have like Tyler here or something, But when Tyler and I would get together, man, we could just sometimes we'd write shit like just crazy around. I'm like, where'd we come up with that? Because it's whatever his beat, I'm like, well, okay. I mean, started doing it. It's just like, wow. And like a lot of songs came up like that, just natural, like just riffing off each other.
I'm going to shift my focus here. When was the point when Joe Ryan approaches you because Toxic Holocaust was having some lineup issues, and obviously he's worked with you guys beforehand, but out of all the guitar players, all the drummers, he picks you guys. And I'm just curious what, in your opinion, what he saw that was different than what he could have gotten elsewhere.
That's a good question because I could answer that pretty good. We have that relationship with them now. We recorded with them that first. He mastered our record, then he recorded with them, and then we did Maddening Men Wars with them. And then one day in between tracking, I just start picking his brain about his members, the live members. I'm like, how you guys ever rehearse? They live in Connecticut or something. How does this work? I was like, how do you guys do that? You just go to Vaughan and play a show and don't even fucking rehearse? He's like, yeah, we fly in different planes and everything. I'm like, what? And I was just like, that's crazy, man. I go, because like Joel lives here, and I just threw it out there. I think I planted the seed, honestly. I go, if you ever need a guy, and you need a drummer and a guy, guitar, because at this point he's playing bass live, and he just gets like a drummer and like Charlie and Nikki Belmore, they were doing that. But yeah, I was like, if you ever need like a guitar player and a drummer, Tyler, I go, Tyler and I would do it for sure. We'd help out. We'd do it. And I just kind of threw it out there, just jokingly, and I think that planted a seed. And then next thing you know, a few months later, Joel slips me a text message asking if we got like passports and shit. I was like, oh, we going on vacation together, And so he's like, yeah, maybe I'll keep in touch. And that went from there.
Interesting. Now, do you prefer him on bass or guitar, just as a fan perspective?
Oh, live and stuff. I want him on guitar.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
He not playing like not just like this. I think he's it's his riffs. I think he kills it. But yeah, he's just as awesome being a frontman with the bass. It's cool because he can live out his Angel Ripper kind of stuff and Venom stuff. Like he's getting that out too. But it's rad he does both. But yeah, But I saw Toxic a lot when he was on guitar, and I thought he's always killed it at that. But so I prefer that live.
I have the opposite reaction. I thought on bass he was just like vicious as fuck.
You're right. You're right. That's what I should have said. But yeah, he's more loose and he's fucking like a monster on the front man with the mic.
I mean, when I saw you guys play a couple years back at in Santa Ana, I couldn't believe he was on bass for one.
Yeah.
And just noticing the energy that he could get away with, maybe because you quote unquote can't really hear the bass live too much, so he can get away with more of that aspect. But I just thought overall the band just sounded so vicious, and it was just what I love in my thrash metal.
Yeah, that show was a special one too, because that was like our last one with Waste on that tour. So it was just like, yeah, that one definitely sticks out in my mind. That whole tour is one of the cooler ones for sure.
Where we all were literally like behind the fucking drummer.
Dude, I always wanted to do that. I always wanted to be those cool guys back there, and we got to do it. And then remember how many times I stage dove? I couldn't stand still. And then I dive out, and Tony would be like, Eric. And I'd be like,
And I always was afraid you would get kicked out. It's like, no, he's with the band.
I thought I broke a rib. I had a hell of a time sleeping that night. Let me tell you.
That was that again, and I want to thank you for being so gracious to me and Pops at that show, because I had no idea, for one, you were playing with them. Two,
right.
I just went to go see the fucking show, and I was like, oh, my buddies are playing, because you guys look so familiar, and I hadn't seen you in years, right? So my memory is kind of foggy and whatnot, but it was just cool just to see my friends succeeding. So and going off of this point too, let's go to the next step in your specific career that I have is the maddening memoirs, and just your choices as far as wanting to work with the same people and the comfortability level. So walk me through your just overall choice of putting this record together.
Well, yeah, like once Tyler and I started writing new riffs after Frozen Void, they were getting a little bit more gnarlier, a little faster, a little more aggressive, a little darker. And I was kind of just kind of like going off the vibe of the first record. I wanted to be more serious. And I was like kind of looking at it like, this is like, this is our, like, I looked at it as like, this is our Master of Puppets. For me, I was like, this is what I'm trying to do, or Ride the Lightning or Master mix. I was like, I'm trying to put out like the gnarliest shit I can do right now, like the coolest stuff. And I was really stoked. I was in songwriting mode, riff writing mode. But yeah, I knew like once we had we wanted to work with Joel for sure. Because he's in town recording. It was just so convenient, and it's so comfortable working with them because we've done it before, obviously. So there's that. But it was and at this time it was only Tyler and I in the band as official members, and we were we're actually in this room writing all the riffs where I'm in right now, and so once we got them all together, we hit up Joel and started tracking it.
Musically wise, what did you want to do differently on the Maddening than you did on Frozen Void? Because obviously it had been a couple years since that initial first record. So musically wise, how did you want to grow in terms of the first and second album?
More like I'll just bring like more of a serious, mature level, darker content, just like less cheesy shit, I guess less pizza thrash, if you want to call it that, like just kind of be like, like the kind of vibe that like, like, I don't know, like not so much like Fabulous Disaster, but like I was mentioning more so of Master of Puppets, like more serious, darker. Cause I was like, and I was going through a lot of mental stuff at the time. I was super depressed and bummed out at the time. And I was like, but I was in this rad, fun, like writing mode. So it was like, it was like, when they always write the best music when they're bummed out and stuff. So I thought I was doing that,
It's interesting that you said you're depressed around this time, because you just literally were playing in, Toxic Holocaust and touring and doing your favorite shit. So
no, it was before, like writing this album was before Toxic stuff.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I did not know this. So
Joel asked, the whole thing happened with Joel after we tracked this out, after Maddening.
Interesting. So it didn't come out until a couple years after then.
Yeah. We didn't we didn't get it released until it was well over a year after we finished it. But yeah, this was after we I was in Toxic for a year at that point almost, and that's when it finally came out. So yeah, we've been sitting on it for a while because we were sitting into all the labels and stuff and just trying to land something. We were trying to get like a vinyl deal and stuff. Yeah, we were just doing that, waiting and being patient.
It's interesting when you reach a point and obviously jump right in here with this, but it's interesting when us musicians reach a point that either we want to quit or we can't do this anymore, or the heavy shit starts to implode on us.
Yeah.
It's interesting that, something great comes next. Does that make sense? Like as soon as you want to quit, something else brings you back into music and makes you say, oh wait, no, music needs me here. Essentially, that's how I look at it.
That's because like what you were saying about like when I was talking about being bummed out, depressed and stuff during that time writing it. But like, so even after it's done and recorded and it's like mixed and mastered and everything, and we're sitting on it trying to get it released, and we weren't getting any bites from any labels, from anybody. I mean, we made press kits. I'm emailing everybody, doing all this, trying to get this going, and so then I got bummed out again, like you're saying, like you want to quit. You're like, what I can't. I thought this album was gonna be the one that was gonna do it, and like, but then we get the text from Joel. So that's when that happened. So I was like, oh shit, we got to do this now,
Well, that again, you're only proving my point. Is all of us musicians, I think, reach that point of not wanting to do it anymore, and then you shift your focus and something happens. You can't even explain it. It's just you just kind of have to go with it. So let's go off of this point. Why not use Andre for the album cover? Why Adam Burke?
Well, I was aware of his work. I saw I followed his Instagram and stuff. Didn't know much about him personally or anything, and I knew he did. I think he did he did a Spellcaster record, but he was doing a bunch of other stuff. Obviously, I was tons of stuff, but like a lot of doom bands and stuff he was doing. But I knew he could do like more darker stuff. But the vibe, how like the painting, like it's like how he paints on that real board and with the oil paint. It almost looks like it's like 3D. It's got like texture to it, and but I was always aware of his stuff, and Tyler mentioned him when we were looking for a guy. We knew we didn't want to use Andre again because we wanted this opportunity to work with someone else. That was all it was, just to see what someone else is going to do. And I wanted something more darker, like what it is. Because, side note, Adam Burke nailed it. I mean, I gave him a lot of description of what I wanted, and the dude just blew it out of the water. So yeah, but it was funny because Tyler mentioned him. And I was like, doesn't that guy live in Norway or something? He's like, no, he lives in Portland in our town. So I hit him up, and then I was like, oh, you're a local guy. I thought he was in Norway.
How important is it for you personally to use everyone local, to keep it local per se? Because I think you get a more interesting, unique vibe when you keep it local to your area. There's something about it, man, that you can't explain when you keep everything local and have local guys helping you.
It's true. Yeah. Once I found out Adam was local, lived just a few miles away from me, I was like, that's rad as shit. I get to meet him. I get to see the actual physical artwork. I own it. I have it now. We have it. I have it right here in the room. But we actually went and bought it from a couple of years ago. And but yeah, that was cool to do that. But that's a good point. Yeah, using local. I've only dealt with local people with all the music stuff. So
it's you just get a more, I wouldn't say pure vibe. You just get a more. I can't even explain it to you because I've only done it once twice where I kept everything local and not outsourced it to other guys. But you get a more broader dynamic when you reach out and reach people in Norway and Germany and whatever else.
Yeah.
So
Norway.
you just get a more interesting dynamic with that. So just curious how important it was for you guys to just keep it local on this time.
Well, I don't know if it was really a conscious thing, really, but it was just a rad coincidence. To be honest, I was like, I wasn't like searching for a local dude, you know, honestly. It was just like whatever I knew because Andre lived in Oakland and we dealt with him just through emails. But yeah, once I found out Adam was in town, I was like, that's even better. I mean, man, that's like, because I honestly thought the dude lived in the wilderness, like in the woods in Norway, like where Immortal does that video when they're running around. I was like, he's out there somewhere. So I was like, no, he's in like Portland. Like, oh shit.
Now, the initial reaction to the Maddening, walk me through the differences with this record compared to Frozen Void. Were you guys taken more quote unquote legitimately at this point because of the artists and the artwork? And I feel like I saw more of this record than I did with Frozen Void.
Yeah, like, well, that definitely we're shooting for that. And then, but yeah, the fact that Adam did the artwork and I think a lot of people responded to that, like they really liked, because that was different than the other shit he did. And I think it was one of his most popular ones. He shared it on his Instagram, and it, like the numbers, you know, the likes and shit were like crazy. So like it was getting shared. And I saw on Facebook it was shared like thousands of times. You know, so I was like, wow, at least the artwork's getting around. You know, there's some free PR right there. And so yeah, but yeah, I was stoked at how it all came out for sure, like the whole look of the album and everything. And yeah, just more serious vibe. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, because honestly, I don't know if it really changed like people's view on us, because we released it right before the pandemic. Our CD release show was the last show right before the pandemic. The last show I played, like the most recent one I played.
So that explains why you never toured for this thing.
Oh no, yeah, exactly. You can't do, yeah, because like what? Because it was 2019 or 2020 when COVID hit.
March of 2020.
Yeah, March of 2020. We did our CD release for that album in November of 2019, and then boom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, dude. Who knows? See, who knows what could have happened for us two bands? Because we both released it almost during pretty much during the pandemic. So
yeah, I mean, I was like, yeah, that was like, damn, what the hell happened? Everything stopped.
Did you shift your focus as far as promoting this thing in other ways though? Because obviously you can't just rely on just touring or just doing this. You know, there's other aspects to promoting a record, you know, doing podcasts, doing interviews. Any of that come into play around this time?
Honestly, I mean, unless I tried to make it happen, no one really approached us. And I wasn't really aware of how, I was really naive to how you even get that kind of stuff out there, like get, you know, featured in Metal Injection or Revolver or Decibel, you know. I didn't know, like, you paid them money and then they feature you in a little half page. I thought they found you guys and they thought you were rad, and then I'm such a dumbass. I'm thinking that's how it naturally happens. So I'm like, well, unless they find out about us and they dig us, we're not going to get in Decibel. And then I talked to Trevor from Haunt, and he says, well, give this guy so-and-so some money and he'll put you in there. I'm like, what? You know, that's how I kind of found out about that. So I was naive. I'm not good with PR. I'll be honest. I'm just like, I try to do it, but like, I don't try that hard. I'm just like, if it don't happen naturally or organically, I don't know what else to do, you know, like.
You're making a good point as far as this goes, man. A lot of bands, no offense, don't take us the wrong way, but there's a lot more of you guys than needs to be when it comes to like needing to doing the PR thing, to promoting and whatnot. Not a lot of bands seem to do that. And again, not trying to put you down at all. There's just a lot of you guys that rely solely on there's somebody that's going to discover it, and that's how it's going to get discovered.
Like the 1986 way. Yeah, you gotta get pay for those ads on Facebook and Instagram and stuff.
Well, not even that. Just hiring a PR company is so crucial in today's market because of all the influx of fucking bands, dude.
Yeah, I've never done that. I've looked into it a little bit, but like we had we already released Maddening, and then it'd been a while, and I was. You know, bring up Trevor from Haunt again, like him and our buddies now, and like I went to him a lot for a lot of advice about like, and he really kind of shed the light on a lot of shit that I had no idea. I was like, oh wow, I didn't know that's how it worked. You know, he's like, yeah, dude, this is how it is. I'm like, no wonder. Like, yeah, we need some more money, and we need to hire somebody, like you were saying. Yeah, like we didn't know.
Do you think you would apply this more and more obviously on the next record. What is going on with? And I'll get to the Toxic stuff in a minute. But what is going on with Weresquatch as far as new music goes? Is there a potential third record, brewing?
Honestly, that Squatch is hibernating. He's not doing anything. He's like, there's not much going on. Like, there's no new riffs for Weresquatch. Nothing. Like, it's like kind of put on hold. And I kind of want to start something different. I want to do a new project, a little bit more. I'm getting more into like more extreme stuff, more death metal stuff. I'm trying to come up with something. I'm trying to do like, I got really into Carcass. And I'm really into like bands like Devastation from like Corpus Christi, Texas. And Demolition Hammer. Like that death thrash stuff. Like I'm really in like that more mid-range vocal in there, and not the death metal one. You know what I mean? Like I like keep that kind of creator vocal thing. Like. I'm tuned down a little bit lower because I've been playing E standard my whole life. I'm trying to tune my guitar down, so that's kind of what I'm going for. But I'm just waiting for my hands to heal up and then get the riffs to come.
Yeah, it seems like all of us are getting injured during this time of not playing, right? Of course.
That's what I said. I think it's because we're all sitting still. We're all drying up. We need to keep moving.
Exactly, man. And it's all too well because obviously, with my career playing in death thrash bands, that's my bread and butter. That's where I'm at. That's where it's at for me, man.
Yeah.
So why aren't you? Or I'm not even gonna. I don't know how to ask this, so I'm just gonna ask it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why aren't you in Toxic Holocaust anymore, as far as a live performance? Because the last time I saw them, it was only Tyler on drums.
Yeah, Tyler's still a live guy. Yeah, Tyler's still a live drummer. They got a good buddy of mine from Utah, Rob Gray. Who he met through me when we played Utah on that Municipal Waste tour. Super awesome guitar player, one of the best guitar players I've ever seen in my life. But he's really good. But he's a new guy, and but basically the short answer of it is I got let go. I got fired, but it wasn't for like any shitty like reasons for like we got in fights or anything. It was just like it was all me. And like the thing, I experienced a lot of anxiety and stage fright shit with playing with Toxic, to be honest. And it just kind of like I couldn't perform at the level I felt like Toxic, needed, obviously. And it just didn't really get any better. And it kind of was, it was kind of in the air. And and Joel made the decision, which I totally agreed with. It's a huge bummer, but like it is what it is. And I learned the hard way, but I'm glad I tried.
Well, and did that only further your reach as far as connections go, though? Did you start to? Okay.
Yeah, it was like first tour we get thrown in there. We're on tour with Municipal Waste and Haunt, and we're like playing the coolest venues and like playing for all these rad bands. Playing with Nuclear Assault in Brooklyn and stuff, and shit like that, and Bourne, Virginia, but stuff. But just like but connection wise, I met all those guys over. I'm homies with all the Waste guys now. They're the cool. They were everything I wanted them to be. I thought they'd be. They were just the coolest, nicest dudes, and they're so welcoming of us and everything. And but connection wise, I felt I rubbed a lot of elbows with a lot of big dogs, like heavy hitters and stuff. Playing right before Sodom on a Saturday night in South America in front of like 90K is kind of cool. So
Wow.
So like, playing, seeing Angel Ripper up there and Frank, they used to be Creator and stuff. Those guys, like the legends. You're like, damn, we're playing right before them. And look at this crowd. All I saw was people. Like
amazing. Now, do you formulate your stage show differently than to a 90,000 seat venue compared to a local show?
Yeah, they were playing. Yeah, we're just playing at this giant field in Bogota, in Colombia, and it's like kind of raining and stuff. And the stage was so big, and they had like this huge like kind of like catwalk out the front in the middle. Joel's like, bring your longest guitar cable. I'm like, all right. It wasn't long enough. Like I couldn't get that far away, dude. It was like I thought it was like it's a long cable, but I was like I needed like an extra 100 feet, but like the light, but it was nerve-wracking for sure. But yeah, it just like once you kind of got into it and you zoned out the whole idea of like you're playing in front of so many people, you're just like, luckily it was kind of raining, it was kind of dark, so I don't have much memory of the people. I just remember like just trying to get through every song without passing out. Like, so yeah, that's what I remember. But it was rad.
Why not use a wireless? Why not?
I don't even get one. I don't know. It wasn't even offered really. I didn't like.
I'm just saying, why not bring one? My point.
I never used one before, so I don't know. I never used one. I never even thought about it. But Joel, I asked Joel about that beforehand. He's like, "Nah, just plug straight in." But yeah, so we just I just kind of took his advice and did what he said. Because he's been in that situation a hell of a lot more than I had at that point.
Sure. Now, let's branch off of this too. So what is cooking as far as like this new quote unquote death thrash band goes? Have you found members for it or?
Not necessarily. I mean, I have like Tyler knows about it, but we haven't like jammed on anything, at all. We haven't even jammed since the pandemic. I mean, I've hung out with him a couple of times, but like, yeah, we haven't even jammed. But he's aware of it. He's stoked on the name I came up with, and he knows exactly the vibe that I'm trying to go, because he's like super into Carcass and all that stuff too, and like he's a big part of the reason why I got in a lot of those bands. And I mean, I don't know if he would do it 100% or what, but like I'm sure he'd be down to try it out. But then I have like our newest bass player, my buddy Steve. I talked to him about it, and I'll quote what he said. That's more in his wheelhouse anyway, so he'd be stoked on doing it with me. So I try to keep it probably a 3-piece still too, kind of like Weresquatch, but this is a different hybrid version of it.
Sure, and I just think it's so cool that you and Tyler still have the bond, no matter what kind of transpired. Just as people, is really cool because it's really rare to have. We're still cool and everything. It's a bummer that he's still, I'm not in Toxic anymore, and we're not doing that, because that was the biggest bummer of it, because we're such good friends. Like Joel and Tyler, like biggest homies I had in Portland, honestly. And then so it was like, it kind of felt like we had a little gang. We were really good friends. So that's like the worst part, because I can't go hang out with my buddies, on these tours and shows. But like, it is what it is. But no, and Tyler and I are still cool. Yeah, no weirdness with that. Now, lastly, I want to thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time to do this. It's always an honor for me to get to talk to you guys. Now, where can people find anything Weresquatch, anything Death Proof, or anything that you've been a part of?
Well, I mean, it's like, my Instagram, Squatch Lord, that's what your main source of whatever I'm doing. If I'm going to be doing anything and promoting it, it's going to be there first. But like, yeah, we also have our Weresquatch Instagram. So Weresquatch Thrash, I think that's what it is. But yeah, it's just like, that might we might do something with that again, who knows. It I mean, I'm not trying to abandon it or anything, but anyways, long story short, we're Instagram, Squatch Lord, or the Weresquatch page on Facebook too, and Bandcamp.
Absolutely, gotta have it, man. Now, Eric, thanks so much again for giving me a few minutes of your time, and for another episode of Poppitt's Corner, guys. We're out of here. Cheers.